Welcome to the Shoot This Now podcast. I'm Tim Malloy.
I'm Matt Donnelly.
And this is the podcast where every week we bring you another story that we think should be made into a movie. And this week we have a doozy.
An incredible Milan to Minsk style journey.
I don't know what that word means.
It's the Seinfeld joke. Rochelle, an erotic adventure from Milan to Minsk. What I mean is, this is an American story that covers so much ground, and you had a beautiful way of phrasing it when we talked about this in our production meeting, because we have such high-level planning for this podcast, that you called it sort of like the Anti-Forrest Gump, although I think it's like it's a roving, many-headed beast of an American tale.
Yes.
It does not star a little Jewish mouse. It stars an empowered, amazing, blacktivist, and revolutionary.
It's Angela Davis.
It's Angela Davis.
Who I was actually stunned that there's never been a biopic about her that I can find. Exactly. There are many documentaries because she's a really important figure. And she pops up in a lot of documentaries, including Ava DuVernay's 13th.
Yeah.
She popped up in the Black Power mixtape. There's a very good section on her.
She's still with us, by the way.
She's still with us, and she's still doing incredible things, which we'll talk about at the end of this. But I was shocked that there hasn't been a biopic because it seems like she has one of the most amazing stories, one of the most amazing American lives. Yeah. And the New York Times actually said in a story when her archive was released to Harvard University that few people have had as interesting a life as Angela Davis.
An archive, by the way, is a collection of every piece of material culture from someone's life. Mm-hmm. Interviews, video clips.
Her letters.
Letters, writings, in Beyonce's case, costumes. You're laughing, but it's true.
It's totally true. Yeah. Jennifer Schussler, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, in this February 13th, 2018 article, wrote about Angela Davis. The acquisition comes as scholars are telling a less male-dominated, top-down story about the Black Power movement and the left in general. It also sheds light on the rise of intersectional feminism, which takes into account women's overlapping identities and the campaign against mass incarceration. This is the part I love. To name two causes Professor Davis helped pioneer before there were quite names for them.
Wow.
So she's a complete innovator.
And even now seems to uphold a standard of something that's only now entering consciousness, which is the idea of intersectional identities, which is that you can be more than one minority or one part of one group at the same time, and that has massive impact on the quality of your life.
Oh, you're going to love the end of this podcast.
I'm so excited. Intersectional feminism makes me want to book a fucking retreat in Switzerland and hold up at a luxury hotel and talk about this for days. It really does. It truly does. It makes me so happy.
What if we start our story instead at a Howard Johnson's Motor Lodge in Manhattan?
Do you mean start at the beginning?
We're going to start kind of in the middle, kind of the Breaking Bad approach.
Let's do it.
It's October 14th, 1970. Angela Davis is arrested in a Manhattan Howard Johnson Motor Lodge.
Whoa.
Richard Nixon goes on the television and congratulates the FBI on its capture of the dangerous terrorist, Angela Davis.
My God.
Meanwhile, we have someone else who speaks about Angela Davis. That is Aretha Franklin, who says that she wants to pay her bail. Quote, "Not because I believe in communism, but because she's a black woman and she wants freedom for black people. I have the money. I got it from black people. They've made me financially able to have it, and I want to use it in ways that will help our people."
Amen.
Now, why has she been arrested? What has she been arrested for? We'll find out soon. But first, we're going to flash back to 1955, Birmingham, or as it was known then, Bombingham.
Wow.
The neighborhood is called Dynamite Hill because white people are bombing African Americans out of the neighborhood or trying to keep the neighborhood segregated. I think we start off with her parents making some mention of this, like just another day in Bombingham. And then little Angela Davis is debating whether to go out. Her parents are talking about whether it's safe. And then we see her wearing maybe the last thing we expect from this future huge Afro revolutionary. She's wearing her Girl Scouts of America uniform. Because as Martin Luther King said years ago, the Girl Scouts were a force for desegregation.
Yeah.
Which I don't think a lot of us realize, the activist power of the Girl Scouts. But Angela Davis would later say in an Ebony interview that the Girl Scouts were one of the ways that she became introduced to activism.
Wow. And better they be a force for that than be a force for me not fitting into my Coachella outfits. Am I right? That was a cookie joke during this. I don't know why I said that. This is such a serious conversation.
There's Thin Mints in the fridge.
They're in the freezer where they're supposed to live. Continue.
Where they belong.
Continue.
Yeah. So we see her grow up. She's an incredible student. The Quakers, the wonderful Quakers.
Yeah, who's never done a thing wrong.
The Quakers are all
I'm
right.
from Philadelphia. They don't have the best reputation where I'm from.
Really?
They're a little bit extremist, yeah, and puritanical.
Can we talk about this for a minute?
Okay.
When I first mentioned Angela Davis, you mentioned, like, who is
I didn't know. Fine. You just outed me for not knowing who Angela Davis is. Sorry, everyone.
But I think it's very much a California thing.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure there are people outside of California who know her well, but particularly if you're in California, I think she's part of the legend of California, and particularly early 70s California.
That's a cool thing to be.
Because my parents came from the same place as your family, Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And my parents came over in the 70s, and now I realize I think they were kind of drawn to, like, the cool and the revolutionary aura around California at that time. Yeah. Because the first way I heard of Angela Davis was from my mom, who, as my dad explained during the speech at our wedding, was a communist when I was a kid. I don't know how serious that is, but she definitely had some Angela Davis sympathies. And she always taught me Angela Davis was this great person. And then as I grew up and got older, people were like, oh, she's a violent revolutionary. Like, and so
with a name like Angela Davis, she's a violent revolutionary. Like Pol Pot.
So I was raised to think of her one way and then sort of got the other side. And in my family, like, you rebel by not being as liberal as your parents are. So I would try to get the other side. And now I've gotten both sides. And as we hear, I think you'll get my overall take on her life. So the Quakers, the wonderful Quakers, arranged for her to go to school in New York. There she is recruited by a communist youth group. Wow. She continues to be a great student, goes to college. Has a male German professor.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second? Yes. It's interesting to note that the Communist Party didn't outright recruit her. The Communist Party, let me find it, established a group called...
They were a communist youth group. I'm sorry.
Yes, but this is even more interesting. Called the Southern Negro Youth Congress, which is interesting to see. I mean, I won't tell you why. I don't know. I can explain why, but that's sort of interesting to me that the Communist Party was as organized and effective in grassroots to give it a benign and almost upbeat name. Not that.
Well. We've sort of been trained to think of them as, like, the bad guys, but to them they're not the bad guys.
Yeah. Also, I think we're trained to think of them as a kind of blanket society, like China, when really they can be much more insidious.
Yeah.
Or have proven to be much more insidious. See the Coen Brothers movie. What's the one about Hollywood and communism?
Oh yeah. Hail Caesar.
Hail Caesar. Yeah.
Yeah. There's an incredible debate I recommend people look up on YouTube between Angela Davis and Pat Buchanan, where he tries to blame her. He tries to blame her for everything. The
extrapolation that people make with Angela, it's insane.
He tries to put the blame on her for everything that happened with Stalin, with all of these different communist groups, and she's like, actually, the American Communist Party has never repressed anyone because they've never been in any position to even repress anyone.
The American Communist Party is effectively a country club.
Also, I'm not a communist. Are you a communist?
I'm not a communist.
But I do think we should hear out others' views.
I think my yoga place is called Communist with like a Z. Los Angeles, everybody.
So she goes to college. She meets this German male professor. This is one of the things I like about this story. You see that there are a lot of white males in the story who are doing terrible things.
Yeah.
But there are also some who are helpful to the movement. And it's sort of, as a white male, it's sort of a reminder that, like, you have some role in this.
Yeah.
Like, it isn't just to die. You can also help. You can also help other people rise up and make space for them, and also provide support and help, which is what Herbert Marcuse does. He teaches her, as she puts it, her words are, Herbert Marcuse taught me it was possible to be an academic, an activist, a scholar, and a revolutionary. Okay, she travels to Europe. When she's 18, she gets an important piece of news. The little girl who grew up next door has been killed in a bombing. She is one of the 4 little girls killed in the Birmingham, Alabama bombing of 1963. Grew up next door to her. Her sister was good friends with 3 of the girls, as she later explains. So this is obviously a crucial moment for her. This has really hit home. This is something that we think of as like a moment in a civil rights museum, but these are her neighbors.
That's just, wow.
So she falls deeper in with communists. She becomes more and more interested in the Black Power movement. She returns to the U.S. where she's interviewed by the FBI about attending a communist event when she's not even 20 years old. She gets her master's from UCSD. She gets I believe it's another degree. I'm not a smart person. What's another thing you get besides
Master's degree?
It's from a
PhD.
doctorate. She gets a
PhD.
doctorate.
She gets her PhD.
So she's Dr. Angela Davis now. She goes to Humboldt, but not the Humboldt we know from California, the Humboldt in Germany, in Berlin.
The Humboldt.
The Humboldt. And she's so Californian that even when she goes overseas, she goes to Humboldt. I love it. I love it.
She just took San Vicente to the 10, to LAX, to Frankfurt.
She went by Communism, your yoga studio.
She did, but it was overbooked. And she was on the wait list, so she had to jump on that plane.
Oh, man. So she gets her first teaching job. Everything is going good. It's UCLA.
Comes back to UCLA, obviously, because roots and wings.
Sure. And she takes San Vicente probably, I would imagine, to Olympic in that era.
Or maybe Olympic to Beverly Glen, and Beverly Glen up to Sunset, and then to UCLA, because it's right there.
Right.
Yeah. She avoids Nichols Canyon, yeah.
She's not crazy. I mean...
She's not suicidal to take Sunset from West Hollywood all the way to UCLA.
Come on, who would do that?
I mean, God.
That takes...
What's she, in a Suburban on her phone? Yeah.
Yeah, dropping the kids off at soccer practice in Bel Air. I don't think so. She's Angela Davis. Okay, so she's at UCLA, and then someone decides, hey, this lady's a communist. She shouldn't teach here.
Yeah.
He fires her. What's that man's name, Matt? Ronald Reagan.
Oh, my God.
Ronald Reagan fires her. So
of all the least favorite names you could have just whipped out there. Jesus Christ.
Someone in our story gets to play Ronald Reagan firing Angela Davis.
My God. Who played him in The Butler? Was it Liev Schreiber?
Would he come back?
Hold on. Let me see.
Oh, it was Liev.
Keep talking all
It was Liev.
No, I think he played Johnson.
Oh, no. Wasn't Robin Williams? I don't know. Anyway, I like that movie. I'm like one of the few. I have to defend it a lot. Never mind. We'll cut that out.
Oh. Alan Rickman. Ugh,
Alan
that's
Rickman
terrible
casting. He's no longer
Rest
available.
in peace. He's not tech avail.
Well, maybe Liev will be.
Maybe, how about the Alan Rickman hologram at Harry Potter World at Universal Studios? Sorry, Rickman
I don't
State.
think that would take people out of this 1970s radical revolution movie
would.
at all.
And when like Angela Davis goes to swing at him, her hand goes through him.
Okay, so...
Anyway, Ronald Reagan says she should not be on the faculty at UCLA. Go.
She goes to court, one of many court appearances, and they say, actually, in America, you're not allowed to fire someone for being a communist. They're like, oh, great. So they give her job back at UCLA. And
then Ronald Reagan tweets, not on my watch. No,
then he deletes it, because there's a series of typos.
There was a typo, and he was embarrassed.
He does it again.
Yes.
Yeah. So she gets her job back at UCLA. Then she's fired again for speech or some nonsense fake reason. Mm-hmm. And things are about to get way, way, way worse for Angela Davis. Okay, introducing a man named George Jackson. He is not the thing that's going to go bad for her, but meeting him is going to have some negative consequences. George Jackson is a celebrity prisoner. He is a superstar. And can
I just say, for what it's worth, and if you listen to our podcast, you'll know that Tim is on me all the time about how shallow I am. He is gorgeous.
He's a really
he is what our coworker who was on last week, Umberto, would call a dime or a pretty MRFer. Yeah,
he is, which probably doesn't hurt him as he rises up in the prison spokesman game.
Also, if you're looking for people to become symbols, it helps that they are totally stunning to look at.
Funny how that works,
isn't it?
So he steals $70 from a gas station in the 60s, and for this he's given the sentence, which sounds fair, 1 year to life.
Okay.
Because that's just how things work
That
then.
seems like an interesting parameter, yeah.
Maybe a year, maybe life for the $70 you stole.
Let's see how we feel in a year.
So when he's in prison, this is very cinematic and just incredible. He's involved in a fight with the Aryan Brotherhood, who existed back then. And... yeah,
I think that there's you can find them online now, but anyway.
I mean, they're still around, which is ridiculous.
Disgusting.
And he punches a Nazi.
Nice.
And this fight is broken up when the guards open fire and some inmates are killed. The guard who opens fire is found perfectly innocent and everything's fine. And he vows revenge, according to the police. Not saying Jackson did it, but not too long afterwards, a guard dies. Jackson is charged with this, along with others. They become known as the Soledad Brothers. He publishes one of his books